this is called the MCODE. And the tagline is the long lost manual for human beings. We'll get into that part, but essentially what I have right now is a brand and a concept, and I'm presenting that to you to get your feedback on it, to give you some idea of what I'm working on. But overall, I think it'll just give you a different perspective looking forward to 2021. So to start, I'm going to hand it off to Emily, because she's going to give you a little bit of background on this, which is the part I struggle with.
So I'm here for two reasons, really. I'm here to do the shorter, concise version of how Damon even got to the point of creating the MCODE, but also to provide a little bit of color commentary as well, which is my strong suit as far as our relationship goes. So to jump right in, you know Damon very well from being in the group together as well, but I kind of ride shotgun on all projects, whether they be personal or professional. So because I'm in the shotgun seat, sometimes I provide a bit of navigation, but I understand Damon's brain very well. So as you all know, he's a super ideas guy, and Damon's brain is always working. And he takes little puzzle pieces and pulls them from here, there, and everywhere and puts them together. So when I get to enjoy some of these pet projects, some of them don't come to life, and that's okay. Because some of them probably shouldn't come to life, but Damon is always working. It's a professional thing and also a personal passion. So I'm so happy to be part of MCODE, because it actually means a lot to me now as well. So it's been about a 10-month journey. So I'm going to give you a little snapshot now of how he got there. So it kind of all started when all of our lives changed for COVID downtime. So I became a work from home partner as well. Our kids are all here. Things slowed down professionally for Damon a little bit, but again, his brain was never slow. So he started to think about things that were happening around him. And I'm not going to say this all just started because of COVID. There was a lot more that led to this, but things in our social landscape definitely impacted where he was thinking at the time. So whether it be COVID itself and all of the changes there, or it was Black Lives Matter, or Trump in the news, or various other things that were coming up. Actually, one Netflix program that we watched called The Social Dilemma, and I won't get into it, but we can talk about it later if you so desire, really spurred a lot of thought that kind of was put into MCODE for Damon. So again, it's a pet project, and as I said, sometimes these pet projects should, die a quick death, and some of them really have legs. So this is something that has not only become a pet project for Damon, but it has now been something that we have taken together in our personal life as individuals, as parents, and also as we respectively work on our careers, be that sevenfold or whatever I'm currently doing now for my event projects or in the future. So that said, we also have seen that it has a lot of legs. From the few people we've talked to, our family members, we've tested it out in little ways for folks, but now we see that there could be a small business application. Something that all of you know as entrepreneurs is you have to do things a little differently. And that's where the MCODE kind of has come from. So there is my short intro. Literally, we could take the entire presentation just to talk about how Damon got here, but he's going to jump right into what the code looks like right now and go from there.
Yeah, and I invite anybody to jump in at any time, and I don't think I can stop Emily from jumping in and correcting me along the way. So this is a very interactive presentation, as interactive as you would like to make it, to coin a phrase from Sean Hewlin. So agenda-wise, I'm going to run pretty quickly through the first half, which is just talking about in general what a code is, why you have a code, what are the benefits, and then the second half is going to be a little bit longer, more the specifics about what the MCODE is and how it defines itself, and then how we can apply it. So jumping right in, what is a code? Your code is just your set of values. It's personal to you. It's your measure of integrity, of character. It's a standard to which you hold yourself and the example you set for others. It's all about core values, and none of this is super revolutionary for people. It's how you define yourself by values. When it starts to get interesting, and back to the point about my brain and how it works, is I like to try and draw lines between concepts and get them how they work together and how they mesh and how they illustrate. So this is sort of what I've come up with. There's so much focus these days on selling people things that help them improve their mind and their body. If we're talking about activity, exercise, nutrition, being strong and being healthy, a lot of push on that in the marketplace, and also on the engagement, the entertainment, the education portion of exercising your mind. Whether we're thinking about Peloton or Netflix or all the big products that are out there, it's really firing on those two cylinders of mind and body, and people get fed in their ego by those two things, because when you cross those over, where they overlap is where you develop confidence. My basic proposition for all of this is that you need that third wheel to balance everything, and that is your code, your values, your integrity, and your character, because that helps you sort of root those abilities that you've developed in your mind and body with a sense of morality and purpose. So now, as we look at the Venn diagram, where the body intersects with your code is where you get more resilience. That's like been the number 3 key word of 2020. Feeling like, okay, I got this. Okay, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the right thing. That kind of mental resilience and emotional intelligence. And on the other side, where your code intersects with your mind, is where you say, yes, I'm engaged and I'm connected to what's happening in the world, and I'm sort of educated and involved, but I also have to pull it back to what is my role in this, and that self-awareness of it, and that you're not getting too wrapped up in those things. So the code gives you that sense of self-awareness and resilience, which is important, but the balance of all three is how you find in the center what I think is the path to happiness, health, and wholeness. And happiness is clearly just feeling like, okay, my ducks are in a row, my life is going the right direction, I'm doing the right things, I feel good about the person that I am. And that promotes mental health and physical health. And then when all of those things align, it's the wholeness of saying, okay, this is, now I'm on the right track in the goals that I have in life and the person that I want to be. So other benefits of having a code, when you sum it all up, those were sort of the features and advantages. The benefits are that you can overcome challenges on an individual level, interpersonal level, and an organizational level. And what that really means in plain language is you can be a better person, partner, and leader by doing these things. So I'm going to sort of halt it right there, because all of this sounds, like motivational stuff. It's kind of cheesy. There's a picture of the guy in the sunrise. Like, come on.
That really does it right there. That's the cheesy factor.
It's over the top. This is not where I started with this idea. This is kind of where it developed to. Where it started was my own personal values and trying to measure them against what was happening in the media and some of the issues that Emily mentioned. And it sort of developed into this and developed its own brand. But I don't put myself out there as a motivational speaker or anything like that. Let me tell you a bit about the MCODE, and I think you'll see how it got here. So the MCODE is a brand. It's what it is, but it's the brand of my personal values. So for anybody who isn't me, the MCODE is a pre-built set of values that focuses on humility, respect, and growth. Where we draw back to that tagline of the long lost manual for human beings, what I want to try and get across, and not to the greater world, I'm not out to tell anybody how to live their lives, but for myself and for my family, for my kids, as I have like a whole bunch of them and I have to raise them, it's this kind of attempt to rediscover our natural human coding. So the example that I love is when I say you put 2 babies in a room, 2 6-month-old kids in a room, and one is black and one is white. There's no discrimination, there's no hatred, there's no preconceived notions. These are 2 human beings, and they want to interact, and they want to be friends, they want to have that kind of engagement. So that's who we are as people, that's how we're born, that's how we're built and coded. And we've moved so far away from it at a societal level, and there's reasons for that, but ultimately I'm trying to break it back down to who human beings were meant to be, based on a set of values. So I've sort of whispered this to a couple of the members of the club at a very high level, and I've gotten a lot of encouragement and good feedback. I haven't gotten into the actual meat of it, and I'm going to do that now. So I will warn you that a lot of this language is kind of like Old Testament-y. It's kind of like commandments. And that's my language that I use for myself. That is not, prescribed to anybody else. But I want, when I say, that old natural human coding, I want it to sound ancient and, and, like set in stone sort of things. So bear with it. We've had discussions about softening the language or having other versions of it.
Yes, definitely. When I say that I'm a bit of a navigator, that applies to lots of aspects of our life. But when I first was presented this from Damon, I could just hear him speaking, and to himself, not to anyone else. It's not directive to me, to our children, to our friends, and it's not a subscription type of thing. It is literally what Damon wanted to do for his own brand. So it probably needs some tailoring as we go through, and don't get hung up on all the exact words that are used. It's the overall concept is my guide.
It's not a cult.
It's
It
not a
sounds
cult.
like a cult. It's not a cult.
We're not religious, like
No.
none of this stuff. It's just about how do we do something that could help mostly our children moving forward, but there are different applications now.
Exactly. So there are 21 values in the MCODE specifically, and I divided them into 7 modules. Makes it a little easier to digest 21 different concepts by, batching them into sets of 3. But it walks through a process, and they sort of build on each other. So they are stages that you go through, starting from motivation to the method of how you're going to achieve that, some more of the means, like the real hard work, the mantra that you use to coach yourself through it, the mindset that you get out of that, the mission that you inherit from all this, and then how you measure your results. So obviously that's where the M comes from in MCODE. All the stages start with M. It's not Emily.
I really thought it was originally when he told me. Must be the M, like EM code. Nope, not me.
Nice try. So starting at the top, I'm just going to make sure I can read that there. Motivation. So the first stage is understanding the reason why you're even investing in this process. All of the language is an I statement because, again, this was for me. It wasn't made for anybody else, and it's not meant to tell anybody else how to do things. If you adapt to this, it's because it's for you. So, I strive to be happy, healthy, and whole. That's the overall objective. Very simple. Number 2, I'm entitled to respect as long as I respect myself and others. So a lot of these have a double entendre or 2 edges to them. I've heard a lot of people going, you owe me respect. And that's not granted naturally. You earn it, and you earn it by showing that you are, self-respecting and that you're treating others respectfully. It's not something that you get carte blanche. But at the same time, you do deserve it. And I know that's something that I've learned in my life is there were times when I was not demanding the respect that I did deserve for myself, and I was not happy. And it's this major change in my life, and it's all paid dividends. So that's an important one. They're all important. Number 3, I'm only good for others if I'm good with myself. It's a very relationshipy kind of one, but you have to be able to sit alone in a room and be happy with yourself. Nobody else is going to give you the missing elements or fix you or things like that. So, if you do these things, the rest of the steps, they all pay upward the chain to make these things come true. The second phase of it would be the method. So these are the kind of concepts that mark the path to the goals that you're trying to achieve. And I'll continue down the numbering of 21. So number 4 would be, I will accept the things I cannot change the things I can accept. Very, cliche right now, kind of a 12-steppy thing, but still true. Like, truth is what matters. And when you understand that there are energies that you shouldn't be expending trying to change something that you can't change. This goes back to the book that Tim and Chris have talked about, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. There's a lot about that and saying, know when to pick your battles, know what's important, and know when not to just spin on something that doesn't need to be changed or can't. I understand that if I want something to change, it starts with me. I think this is huge. And that's probably the one that started the whole concept for me. That, I look at the world and I go, it doesn't make sense. It's a bad place, and there's so many bad things happening, and I can't change them. And that honestly doesn't sit right with me. And I've always had to say, I can only control what's within my 4 walls. But if I do want to make a change outside of that, I have to change me, not tell everybody else what they're doing wrong. So that's how this was started. And the next piece is I will keep an open mind and continue to grow. So it sounds real easy at that level of saying, okay, that's the method, that's the concept. But when you start to dig down into the actual means of how you get those things done, it gets a little more prickly, a little harder. The heavy lifting in this setting a new or a stronger character foundation, I will always be honest with myself, no matter how hard the truth is. That one is that's a kick in the teeth sometimes when you got to look in the mirror and go, oh, I screwed that up. Oh, this is my fault. I have nobody else to blame but myself. It's those people that we align with most strongly, the ones that can say, no, no, I know where I stand. I know what I am. I know what I've done. It's nobody else's fault, but I get the credit too. I'm honest with myself no matter what. And, that's the type of people that we align with in our personal lives, that, you can say, you screwed that up. And they go, yeah, I know I did. That's the type of people we want to be around.
And it's a type of entrepreneur as well. You have to do the hard stuff. You have to make changes, even when that's not easy to do, for your business or otherwise. So I think it makes great sense that way.
Exactly. And so the second half of that kind of is that I will learn from my mistakes and keep moving forward. So not only can you admit where you've fallen down, but you'll look at it and figure out how you can do it better. It's about being able to apologize and being able to own those things, but also not to keep running into the same wall over and over again. From an entrepreneurial point of view, the statistic is that 4 out of 5 new businesses fail within the first year. A lot of those are people that have never tried it before and they don't have experience, and that's why they fail. And a couple of those are people that don't know how to learn from mistakes and continue to fail. And the 1 out of 5 that does succeed has already failed before, but now they've figured it out. That's what I've understood from it. So, learning from mistakes is obviously clutch. The last one in this set is that I will expect more of myself than of others. I like this general rule in the sense that, business, relationships, the world in general is a lot of give and take, and you can't always expect to be the person that takes the bigger piece. Sometimes you got to be the one who says, all right, I'm going to give you right away on this, and I'm going to take the high road on this, even though you're not. Expecting yourself to hold that standard without expecting others is an easier way to work through conflicts, and you're less disappointed and you're pleasantly surprised when somebody else gives you the right of way. It's just a more general rule for how you interact with others at a level of respect. So these things are really tough, like no doubt, the honesty piece, the learning, the, taking a back seat in your expectations, it's really hard work. So I felt like the next piece had to have some empowering reinforcement kind of mantra to get through it all. So, these are a little bit, hard, tough love stuff, but I've honestly lived by these, and it's helped me get to where I am in my personal life, in my business. But I believe these things. I believe that I'm owed nothing and I deserve what I earn. So you don't get things just by virtue of a name or a position or anything like that. You get what you deserve, which it could be a negative if you say, you do the wrong things, you get the wrong results. But it's also, this entitlement is running really rampant right now in social media and in the youth and in the millennials. It's about, I should be happy all the time. I should always be, winning. No, you can win, you can be happy, but you work hard for it and you earn it. And it isn't just owed to you. I'm responsible for my actions and never a victim. That one, I bristle at it right away because I hear the victimhood in today, and it's waved like a flag, like some virtue. Like, you don't know how hard I have it, and I've had it rough, and nobody gave me a chance. Okay, great, but what do you do with that? You turn yourself into something from your circumstances, and everybody in this room knows that one because that's why we're entrepreneurs, and that's why we found success in business. And the one that is most personal to Emily and I is, I can deal with anything and nothing is too hard. We've said it to each other, when you've had troubles at work, when you've had troubles in your relationship, and one of us feels like, oh, this is so bloody difficult and I hate this. The other one says, yeah, but you can deal with anything and nothing is too hard. And it changes your perspective on it, right? It's having that.
It's really rough to hear sometimes, but
it's true though.
But it does work.
But when you have that as your mantra to go, yeah, I know being honest with myself is hard and admitting mistakes is hard, but I can deal with anything, and nothing is too hard. It keeps you rooted. So let's say you've done the first 4 stages of this. You've gone through your motivation, method, means, and mantra. What you've earned is a new mindset. It's this really empowered, really confident, really self-aware, and resilient mindset. So you've earned it. You have to protect it. And there are going to be things that are going to challenge it every day in social media, in the news, in politics, in work, relationships. There's always going to be challenges because right now, even, most especially big business, they want to feed our egos. They want us to feel like we deserve and we should have, so that we go out and buy. So, to defend against getting self-important and entitled, you have to realize that I am responsible for my feelings, and they never come before the well-being of others. If I love it when comedians say, if you're offended, that's on you. I'm still allowed to say what I want to say, and there is still freedom of speech. And being offended is allowed, but that doesn't give you license to condemn, cancel culture, those sorts of things, right? There's still, people should still have some resilience in all those things. So have your feelings, they're important. And emotions are key to human experience, but they don't trump facts. They don't trump other people, respect that you owe others. And that's, I think, a lesson that a lot of our younger generation needs to hear. Number 14, I will not compromise my values to meet the approval of others. That one comes right from the social dilemma, where a lot of people who only know a life with social media, they haven't grown up in a time when there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no Twitter. So it is never questioned. It is never said, well, it's not important. What do you mean it's not important? It's part of my everyday life, and I've only ever known that. It can affect them and make them compromise who they are to fit in, social pressures and things like that. But also, like, if you feel something, like if something happens in the news and I don't like it, but if I say that, I get labeled as radical or right wing or heartless or something like that, I can't stop saying it just because people don't like it. It's still true to me, and it's still my truth in that sense. Number 15, I will never be controlled by fear or by those who seek to control me with fear. So this one is a weird one because it probably doesn't fit as well with the others. But after 2020, it was important to me. With the threat of the pandemic, with a lot of the unrest happening in the US that we've mentioned, fear is a huge motivator for everybody right now. And, again, might be controversial for some, but I think the pandemic is the fear. I don't think the pandemic is the disease. I think it's,
Damon,
yes.
sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
Can we talk about 15 for just a second, and just curious about others' views on that? Because I know for myself, I find that I live in a household that has what we need. We're comfortable, don't need to work for a living, and love to work for a living. But the pressure and the fear of the unknown has been insane this year. And wake up in the night thinking about, oh my God, what's going to happen? And so it's a funny year, and maybe it's brought all that on. But I don't know if anybody else has gone through that. But
yeah, we have a 18-year-old in the house who's got a bit of an anxiety issue. He manages it really well. We support him a lot in that. There's a lot of reinforcement and positive energy. But it has been a year of managing fear. And, sometimes we say, you've got nothing to worry about. And we don't necessarily wholeheartedly feel that way. But he needs to hear it, right? So that he has that resilience. But we have arguments and discussions and debates all the time about what's being said to us through the media. We say it doesn't make sense that kids go back to school. It doesn't. It really doesn't. If you're saying that nobody should be intermingling, so why? It just seems that the lines are getting crossed in the media's narrative because they're trying to use the fear as the directive. And I don't want to get into a big debate about it. I'm glad you broke it out to the floor, Joanne, but I think ultimately the fear is the pandemic right now, and that we all have to take a deep breath and say, carry on.
Carry on. I think in the last 3 months.
Satish, you have something you want to add?
For me, I on average have about 2 anxiety attacks a year. When I referred to late December, I was going through an anxiety attack which lasted about 2 to 3 days, and I have about two of them in a year on average. So fear is something that I deal with on a regular basis since probably second year of university, first year of university. So since '95, I've been dealing with it for about 25 years now. So fear for me is something that's hard. Sometimes I am fearful of being I do get controlled sometimes by the fear, and so I have been dealing with it for about 25 years. And anxiety, I get about on average two a year. So that's why I put in there 14 I can do, but then it's related to 15, which is 15 I have a lot of trouble with throughout my life, most of my life.
Well said. So I think the idea of this being set out in stages is that you build up these things, right? And as you go through every module, you get more comfortable and more set and more confident, and you get more tools to deal with anxiety and fear. So I didn't put it in this presentation, but when I talk about, being a better person, partner, and leader, the better person part is that there are a lot of things that people struggle with, whether it's depression, anxiety, regret, just bitterness and anger. And there's a lot of negative emotions swirling around out there, and they seem to be fed by the forces and the institutions that we live in, like whether it's the media or whether it's big business or whether it's politics. They want us agitated and they want us wound up, and that's how they control what we do and where we spend our money. And that sounds like a huge conspiracy theory, but it's really just an observation, and I'm fully aware of it now. And I have no, I'm not out there with a picket sign on the streets, but I get it. I get how it works. And I get that when you take people and mass them into huge amounts in urban centers, there's a lot of anonymity and there's a lot of facelessness. So victims are faceless too. So it's easy to just say, well, if we get people whipped up, we're going to make a lot more money.
And all of those things previously that you've said as I have the faith in myself and it's on me to make my life better. When you hand over that control, in air quotes, control of your happiness to someone else, you succumb to 15 a lot, right? Like, yeah, my 2 cents.
Wow, I'm surprised that there's so much response on that one, because I honestly feel like it's the weakest point for me. I think it's a strong statement, but I don't anticipate how it really resonates with other people. So I'm loving that feedback.
I think this year is just different than any other year, Damon, quite frankly. It's, I would not say that necessarily most of us are fearful of a lot of things, but certainly this year's been unusual that way. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people's fear are controlled by fear. But it's just being like you said, it's being enhanced right now. We got people that are afraid to come outside in our family, and it's fear.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, the media's done that, right?
I think so. I think so personally, and I think you're right, Joanne, that it's this year, because without this year, this wouldn't happen. What you're seeing on your screen wouldn't have evolved to this point at all. And I would just keep trucking along, being this weird kind of guy who tells his kids funny things once in a while. But
that's a big point, Damon. I think that number 15 is a big one, especially for kids.
Yes.
Look at an athlete, he doesn't go try out for teams because his theory's not going to make it. Right?
There's so much more to deal with. Like back at a time when the news was on at 6 and 11, that was it. It wasn't 24/7 in your face, half an advertisement, half a horror movie just to keep people glued to the screen, and it's affecting society in a super negative way. So good stuff. I'll pick
David,
up.
and I'll just
Go ahead.
I'll throw it in, and as always, I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. I think the key word in that statement is controlled, right? So like fear in and of itself is not a bad thing. Fear is a motivator. And in absence of fear, none of us would be here, because our ancestors would have been eaten by saber-toothed tigers or would have jumped off cliffs and done all sorts of stupid things, right? So fear is a natural human reaction. Fear is an important part of who we are. The key is not to be controlled by it. So I think the key to that point is, and Satish, to your point, like That's a medically diagnosed, like a physical condition that happens. And the key is that you recognize it's a 2-day thing. You do what you need to do and you get back on path. So it's all controlling you, right? Your 52 week of the year existence isn't managing these 1 or 2 anxiety attacks that you know are going to happen, right? So, I think a lot of the time people, everything is very black and white to lots and lots of people in society. And fear in and of itself isn't bad. It's the constant domination and control by fear is what the key to that statement is.
It's true. And for us, with our 18-year-old, we talk a lot about anxiety for him. And he feels like he's on his own and he has to just be controlled by it. And I tell him, I move on anxiety, but it's not because it's a control. It's what actually motivates me further. So
yeah, right. And I
rein it in and you can deal with it, but he doesn't understand that as someone who's a young adult. Right?
Anxiety is part of the human experience. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And if you let it control you, it is, like Sean is saying. But, and like Bill is saying, fear and anxiety are natural and positive when you know how to manage them and move forward with them. So, wow, really good.
Just a very quick point. Bill is right. It is just 2, and it's a couple of days, maybe 3 days, and it eventually goes away, and how to deal with them. But also my fears, like 14 relates to 15 for me, because when I do that, I don't compromise the values. Then I go, okay, who have I offended by sticking to my guns and digging in? And so 14 and 15 are sort of related to me. For me, in my mind, it's related.
Yeah, and that's the mindset portion, right? Is feeling that in your mindset you are comfortable and in control. So if you've done all the hard work 1 through 5, what you've earned is this new sort of this code that reinforces your resilience and self-awareness, and you've earned this new mantle. And what you've also earned is a little bit of responsibility that you now have to, number 16, pay it forward. And I love that that term has really grown year over year since that movie came out. And it's been one that I had to share with my kids early on. But, we are the fortunate ones in this room, in this city, in this country. We are the fortunate ones. You have to pay it forward. There's not much more to say about that. But there are other responsibilities. And this one is one that Emily and I sometimes butt heads over because my voice tends to be bigger and she keeps me reined in appropriately. But I will use my voice to say important things and not just to hear the sound of it. And I have a big problem with the virtue signalers and the social justice warriors and the people that just want to have their voice part of the fray because it makes them feel important. And I have a big problem with that. And I also have a problem with people that don't speak up when they should. So again, 2 sides to it, but it's important.
Amen.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you just explain what that means? Maybe I'm not understanding the phrase, I will pay it forward.
Pay it forward is you want to do good things for people, not just because they did them for you. You want to help somebody else out. And instead of paying it back to somebody who helped you, you pay it forward to somebody else.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. And tied in with 17 is 18, I will defend those who cannot defend themselves. And I love the fact that this group thinks that way. I love the fact that Grant says, food banks are really suffering. They can't help themselves and there's nowhere for them to go for help. How can we help them? And I loathe people that say, oh, I'm offended on somebody else's behalf that you said that. Well, it's not your place. If they're offended, they can say something, but you don't have to defend them. So like is the position we find ourselves in when we do the hard work to get to this point, still, you have to be smart about how you use that awareness and that ability now, be on the right team kind of thing. Whew, it's been heavy, right? So it's all wrapping up. The last part is the measurement of this. And, we also know this from business. We know this from 90-day planning and from things like that. If you don't have a plan, it doesn't work. You also have to measure and be aware. So the long-term plan for me is to cultivate and maintain these values by trying to improve every year in some way. And it can be personal, it can be professional, it can be Candy Crush. I don't care what it is. It's got to be like, for me, I have to have a score that keeps going up. Otherwise, what am I doing with my life? But it's a good way to measure that, you're looking for those milestones and those measurement points to say, I don't want to have that same fight every year about that same thing. We have to move back beyond that as a couple. That's, you know, a great person.
Oh, we're talking about that now.
Sure, and pepper it up a little bit, make it sexy. But or you know, whatever it is, like I want to have more hours to do this year than I did last year. At the same time, I'll take time to reflect, absorb, and appreciate. You know, we're down the slope of the hard work on the MCODE, and now it's more like, all right, you know, I have to breathe, I have to take it all in, and I have to say things are good in general, despite the fear, despite the state of the world. I worked hard for good things, and I have to appreciate them. And then for me, it all wraps up in the fact that I don't need things to be happy. I need people to share them with. So I don't know about you guys. I have found that a big part of the reason that my business has been successful is because I don't look at customers as price tags, as revenue streams. I look at them as people and how I can help them and how I can make their lives easier and how I can get their approval and praise, because I'm super big on that. But it's not about how much money I make at the end of the year. And it never has been, but it has been getting better because of that, because of the fact that it's not my focus. You know, I'm not saying success is bad. I'm not saying money is bad. I'm not saying high profits are bad, but it can't be your whole focus. They won't bring you all the happiness you want, but they will give you more to share with others. And that's a good thing. So, you know, I'm still a businessman at heart. I still want to succeed and earn lots of money, but not for having money, but for having more to share with other people, because that's what really makes me happy. So, wow, heavy.
And he just raced through all of them. So there are probably tons of questions and lots of time later, not even today, to talk about anything that he wants to talk about. But there is a...
Oh yeah, I mean, any one of these could be a 20-minute podcast for me. Like, just start me and you'll regret it. But
Yeah, I want to just say the presentation was excellent. That last one, 21, I think COVID has made a lot of people realize that things are not important and that we were focused before COVID. That, for me, this is my experience. I really don't care about a lot of things anymore that I said, well, I want this, I want that. Now it's like, I just want to be with people. I want like little things that we can't do anymore, you know? I think COVID's really brought that to the forefront, that last point you had.
we had a lot of first world problems, didn't we?
Yeah.
Hey, Damon, can you go to the title, right, first page?
First page?
Yeah, it's sort of been something that's been in my head the whole time.
Okay. Like
Yeah,
this?
I just want to. Yeah, can you change where human and beings are? So the long lost manual for being human.
Maybe, right?
Yeah. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, I know where this is going.
Am I that predictable?
It bothered me the whole time.
Brian wanted to go back to a diagram.
Yeah, I'll bring it right back up. But let me just finish this slide because that'll put a pin in it.
Yeah.
Where does this go for me? Like, where does it go for us? Emily might not be working in events much longer, as Sandra can attest to. We've always been looking for something to work on together. This is a big chunk of content, but we don't know what it ends up coming out as when we finish playing with it. So it could be a motivational or a personal coaching vehicle very easily. I think you can agree that it's got all those good feeling stuffs in them. It could be a leadership training for one person who has a team to motivate. It could be a larger organization corporate culture piece. And it could be like the brand that people say, our organization is MCODE cultured, and that it stands for something for a greater audience. It could be a simple keynote topic where somebody could pay me a ridiculous amount of money to sit and talk about this stuff, because I could do that all day.
Oh, nothing more that he would love.
And like we said, there's so much in here that I haven't unpacked that would be, you know, a lot of fodder for a podcast series or a book. But if I had my dream come true on this, as you can tell from this graphic that I've manufactured, I would love this to be a real grassroots movement where people just say, I like what I'm hearing and I can wrap my head around, I can resonate with it. I will customize it for my benefit, my personal beliefs and values. It might have something about animals in it because I'm a vegan. It might have, you know, those sorts of things, more religious things or more cultural things in them. But the point being, if people can say, this is what we're missing, this is what we're not getting from the media, it's what we're not getting sold because there's no money in it. It's a code, it's a value system. And it's been hard because we have so many cultures mixed together now. There isn't a common one anymore. So I would love to make one that everybody can rally behind. And I would do it completely nonprofit because it's not what it's about for me.
And
I think that if I can just step in, this is when I think of motivational speakers or that stuff, there's a little bit of cheese and hokey in that. This really resonates with me. And I think it's a level up. So people that already sort of have a foundation, this absolutely resonates with them. I cannot wait to share this with my kids. And I think anybody can get something out of this. So don't pigeonhole it as a motivational, because this isn't something that, okay, I'm down in the dumps, I need to do something about it. This just resonates with those that may be on an even plane, but takes it up a whole other level. From the minute you told me about this, it has stuck in the back of my head. I know Bill has probably heard me say the victim line a few times. That's one of my normal phrases now. And I don't know how to take this forward. And you're much smarter than I am. But man, like I said the first time, you've got to just continue on with this, because this is the best presentation I think we've had, or has touched me the most of anything that I've seen in a long, long time. And I'm taking a page of notes. Congratulations and thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah,
sure that I can share this with my kids and friends. Amori really needs to see this. Again, of one presentation to miss, this is not the right one to do it. And again, not to belittle anybody else that we've had, but this one is just fantastic. I think the two of you did a great job presenting it together. And that shows the virtue of your morals and your code within your own house.
Well,
so walk the walk, walking the walk.
Hey, can I jump in?
I just want to second that. The best presentation we've had. Really enjoyed it, Damon. Great.
Wow.
Can I jump in? Damon, at the risk of making your head explode, my first meeting with you guys was like in September or so of 2018, I think. And you did a presentation on brand that I still think about and could probably benefit from seeing that copy of it again in terms of how you laid it out. And so that's 2 for 2 for me.
Well, should make this guy president.
I'm glad you said that, Brian, because ultimately that's the link to my business, is that this is a brand for a set of values. And that's all it is. And it's mine personally, and it doesn't have to be yours. But the concept of branding your values makes it something that people understand today versus a religion, a cult, a new exercise or diet program. Like, people think that those religious belief systems are garbage, but then they adopt the next fad of how you're going to live your life. It's not the fact that there are belief systems that are bad, it's that they're not branded right.
And for me,
is it possible to see that circle diagram again real quick?
can I just say something quick? So because I get to hear all this stuff, no matter what it is, the part that Damon is so modest about is he was very hesitant to share because this is so personal. He doesn't want to put it out there like somebody else should do this. That's not how we operate. Maybe to our children, absolutely to our children. But it's been a bit of a growth time for Damon personally, and he's so happy to kind of make you guys the guinea pigs on it. So you've just really taken a big weight off of his shoulders to say, okay, well, it wasn't a total flop, right? So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for not leaving.
That's
Essentially. So I think that was it. In summary, there's the graphic again. I'll bring it back up to the full version. But in general, if we all hold ourselves to a higher standard for ourselves, you can actually change the world. You can actually, because we outnumber the problems. We outnumber the people at the top that make decisions for us. We can all get on the right page for ourselves, and then things actually change on a larger scale. You don't have to subscribe to this MCODE. It's only offered as an example. But I do recommend that everybody takes the time to identify and actually document your code, and it'll help you on that path for those things that you want in 2021. And this is, again, it's a culmination of a lot of years of thinking about it and being very introspective and self-analytical.
It's also our entertainment. So we've been like locked at home together. So we love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're a little crazy. But I super appreciate the comments and the good feedback. And I open it up for, all your commentary. Send me what you know, send me what you think and love about it. But it's really, really, I appreciate you being the audience for this.